6-year-old girl sat down and taught me how to write a smart contract.
Yeah.
6 years old.
Oh my goodness.
I am the COO of Unstoppable. I'm also founder of a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3. I recently had an accident in Brazil, and it took 2 days to get all my medical records down so they could perform surgery on my leg in Brazil. 2 days. So imagine if it was in my digital identity, I could have just popped it up and shown it to them, verified it was me, how powerful that could be. Meta and Google just published a report that said that they sold our data for $200 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money. And in fact, we've been arguing that data, it's really a human right that you own the data about yourself. Like you would never give someone else, say, here's my driver's license, right? I mean, you wouldn't do that. So why do we do that in our digital world?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Token Talks, brought to you as ever here from our sunny studio in Singapore, where the aircon is always set to high. My name is Sam and I'll be your host for today. And I'm really excited to welcome Sandy Carter onto the show today. Hi, Sandy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sam. Thank you so much for having me here in Singapore. We're actually in Singapore. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you on the show. I know you had a little bit of kind of travel difficulties getting here, but you made it.
I did. We had 2 aborted takeoffs. And one of them was pretty scary because we were up in the air, and when they plumped down, the plane skid. So it was like, okay, I want off the plane. Please let us off the plane.
Well, we're extra grateful in that case that you did make it all the way. We're familiar with each other from my previous professional life, and I know you as COO of Unstoppable Domains. For anybody watching who doesn't know you or doesn't know Unstoppable Domains, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am the COO of Unstoppable. Unstoppable is a digital identity platform. I'm also founder of a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3, which is pretty amazing. I came into Web3 about 2 years ago. Previously, I had been the VP at Amazon Web Services, and I was working with lots of enterprise customers and regulated customers and partners. And that's how I really went down the rabbit hole with Web3, blockchain, AR, VR, that sort of thing. So I've been in the space for I guess now quite a while. I was just at an event, at a timestamp event, and I told someone I had been in the space for 2 years, and they were like, "Wow, really? That long?" I was like, "Yeah, our company was founded in 2018." Wow, they were really impressed, right? Whereas, I worked for Amazon, who'd been in business for 50 years, and IBM, who'd been in business for 100 years. So it's just interesting seeing the perspective of people of how new our area is.
Yeah, indeed. It's one of the most exciting things about it, isn't it? So if you're interested to know, for you personally, was there a particular moment where you kind of had a wake up, kind of enlightening to Web3 or blockchain? Was there a particular spark that...
Yeah, well, it was interesting because at Amazon Web Services, I was working with a lot of regulated customers, and those were like financial institutions, hospitals, even Department of Defense and some government areas, and they were all using blockchain. And some were using it for, for the ledger function, some were using it for security. So I went down the rabbit hole really understanding blockchain and really fell in love with blockchain with Web 2 customers. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. And so as I was exploring all these Web 2 customers, I was like, wow, there's this other thing out here called Web 3. Let me just dabble in that. And so I started dabbling in that. And then I got asked to look at AR and VR, spatial computing. And that was really fascinating how, healthcare was using it for training and that sort of thing. But then that led me from Web 2 to the Metaverse and how people were using it in the Metaverse. So I started doing all these little side projects just because I was diving deep for my Web 2 customers, but seeing all these other use cases. And that's really how I got started looking at it. And of course, then I, got my own wallet, got my own NFTs, and just started playing around.
Amazing. Okay. So you've really been on the journey of working with Web 2 companies, helping them evolve in the space. And now obviously at Unstoppable, I think something I'm really impressed by what you guys are working on is the way you bring so many different kind of, parts of the ecosystem, certainly within Web3, but also in Web2, around kind of a common vision. I guess a lot of that is related to identity and digital identity, but I'd love to hear from you kind of what exactly is it you guys do at Unstoppable Domains and why is it important?
Yeah, well, obviously, we think it's really important because it's all around digital identity. And that means that in Web3, you own your own data and you own your own identity. And that's not the way it is in Web 2, right? So if you think about the way you log into Google or Meta or X today, two of those just rebranded, right? So Facebook or Twitter, if you're not up to speed. When you log in with your username and password, you think you own that and you don't. And you know you don't own your data, right? Meta and Google just published a report that said that they sold our data for $200 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money. And so as you're thinking about that, the other interesting thing is when Twitter rebranded to X, somebody had the digital identity of X on Twitter, but Elon Musk wanted it. And so they just took it away from him, right? Because it really wasn't his to start with. And so now Eon has it, right? And so in Web3, once you get your digital identity, which is represented by a domain like sandy.x, for example, or sandy.nft, you own that identity. Now you can log into any application, not just the platform that username and identity was attached to, but more importantly, all the data that's collected about you, you also own. I think that's really important. And in fact, we've been arguing that data, it's really a human right that you own the data about yourself. You would never give someone else, say, here's my driver's license, right? Or here's you wouldn't do that. So why do we do that in our digital world?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Exactly. And I think that the Elon X case you brought up is a perfect example of that. So data on Unstoppable then, or data that is connected or is related to your Unstoppable domain identity. What kind of data are we talking about? What types of data?
Well, so it could be my avatar that I use in, so today we partner with Ready Player Me. So it could be any of the 7,000 metaverses that use Ready Player Me. We're talking about your NFTs, or if you're not with Web3, that would be like a digital collectible. And that could have in it, your causes like, I support the climate, or I support women of Web3, or, I'm a car lover, I support Formula One. It could be anything, any data like that. But it could also be, connections, data about your email, your birthday, your nationality, any of those things as well. That's why things like zero proof are so important, because what they do is they enable you to share the type of information without sharing the information. So the great example that we always use is, if I want to know that you're over 18, so I'm not sure, Sam, if you are over 18, but you can identify that you are over 18 without giving me your exact birthday. And that, I think, is a very powerful concept. And that's why I think zero proof is going to become very important as we move forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's fascinating how fast that's picked up as well. Right? It's a technology that, or at least conceptually, was invented a long time ago, I think in the 1980s. And then suddenly we're seeing it being adopted by so many protocols. And it's really interesting how quickly that's picked up.
Yeah, I was just talking about how important I think data is, especially digital data, and how it's growing important for us. But then for the next generation, I think it's even going to be more important. So my daughters, we were just hosting a birthday party, and we were asking the guest of honor what she wanted for her birthday. And we thought it was going to be a shirt or something physical in real life. And she wanted Robux, which you use in Roblox. And, so it's digital currency that you use to buy digital things. So you can design your bedroom in a digital world. It's like a Metaverse 2.5, I guess I would call it. And it was just fascinating to me. So I had to do my little focus group with all these little girls to say, okay, why is that important? They're like, oh, Miss Carter, everybody knows that digital assets are like awesome, and I can move them here, and I can do this. And, I have all these social things that it unlocks, because it's just really fascinating. It's like, didn't you know, like, this is normal. Like, this isn't, something that you have to think about. Whereas when I go in to present to a Web 2 company, typically I'm talking to a CMO who is much more experienced. And I have to start at the very beginning. Like, why is a digital asset even valuable? What about it is important? Why is that data important? So it's just starting at a different level. So I think that Whereas data is important today, I think the importance of it will only get more and more essential as that next generation comes into the workforce as well.
I can imagine, yeah. And it also leads me to think about the time you talked about your children's experiences and the way they're engaging with digital realms, which leads me to think about the metaverse, which is, I know, is a concept and area that you're really interested in. So what do you think are the types of experiences that we're going to be doing in the metaverse in the future?
So some of the work I've been doing recently is with different sets of startups. So one set of startups was with education. And I find this really fascinating because I really believe that education, helps that next generation. And so teachers are always complaining about, I've got a classroom of 40 kids and every kid is at a different place. How do I teach so that everybody gets something out of it? Well, a lot of these education startups are looking at using the metaverse and artificial intelligence to personalize education for every student. Can you imagine that? Like if you and I had personalized education, I think that's really cool if you think about it. So you can have 40 kids, each doing something at different levels, at their own level, at their own rate and pace, and what really interests them. My daughter, who just went through a class, one of the things that they were doing is they were talking about, the planetary systems. And they were telling her about Mars and Jupiter. And she was like, okay. And then she came home one day and her teacher took her to Mars in a metaverse. And she was like, Mom, I reached down, the dirt was red. And it was just a different level of excitement and engagement. And studies have shown that if you learn in the metaverse, you retain 40% more than if you do just like we're talking today. So I think that's one place the metaverse will come in. The second area I think that's going to be really important is healthcare. So I was just with a group of 100 healthcare startups in New York City. One of the interesting things is they want to put healthcare data into your digital identity. Which I think is really fascinating because we just actually moved and I was trying to get my medical records. I had some places say, I can't give you that data. Like I can give it to a doctor, but I can't give it to you. I'm like, it's my data. Like it's my stuff and you can't give it to me, which I found interesting. I recently had an accident in Brazil and it took 2 days to get all my medical records down so they could perform surgery on my leg in Brazil. 2 days. So imagine if it was in my digital identity, I could have just popped it up and shown it to them, verified it was me, how powerful that could be. And then with the metaverse, I met with a group of pediatric neurosurgeons. I know that sounds strange, but we were at a conference and they were having this session and they invited me in. And they were telling me about how today hospitals are completely disruptive when the hospital changes procedures. Well, what if you could create a digital twin, which is essentially a metaverse, use artificial intelligence to simulate how children would be processed through it? You could save all that broken process, if you would, right? And then neurosurgeons wouldn't have to spend time on that and could spend time on what they're good at. So I see lots of great use cases. I know the M word is not really popular right now. I guess everybody's using the S word now, spatial computing. But whatever you call it, I do think it's going to have an impact on the future, especially when combined with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, really, it's such interesting use cases you share. And I mean, it brings us back to that question of kind of data ownership and data belonging with you as an individual, as opposed to whoever that might be, Web2 behemoth or elsewhere. So I guess, one of my observations as I watched the metaverse evolve over the past couple of years was, in one sense, it's Web3 companies who are driving innovation there. In another sense, it's, the big Web2 companies who are trying to push things forward. What do you think is going to be a turning point, if there is indeed one, or if it's just going to be gradual to kind of mass adoption of those types of metaverse experiences that you're just talking about?
Well, I believe, one, it's going to be something that's so easy that everybody can do it. I think today it's hard. So I'm an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon, and they asked me to teach a class in the metaverse. And so I went to teach a class in the metaverse. One of my fellow professors wanted to come and listen, but he had to create an avatar, come into my classroom. And he's a professor, he's really super smart. He got stuck on the ceiling of my class. He couldn't get down. So he was stuck up there the whole class. So all the students were watching him. can't be that hard. Like for mass adoption, it's got to be so much easier. I also question whether we're going to be wearing something like wearing glasses or goggles or whatever it might be. You know, I know Apple just had their big announcement, but I think that's like a step one. I don't know if that's going to be ultimately where we are because they're pretty expensive. And if you want mass adoption, you're going to have to go lower, have the barrier to entry be much lower. So I do think maybe it won't be something like that. However, I will say there's a very good friend of mine who is an influencer who got invited to the Apple event. And he told me he put the glasses on and he said, Sandy, I was drooling. Now, you don't know this guy, but I do. I've never heard him even say the word drool in his entire career. So there had to be something so special there about that experience that caused him to say that. So I think experiences like that, like you're drooling over it or the only way you're going to get it is there. I think that's what's really going to have an impact for mass adoption.
Yeah, really interesting to hear that. The way that Apple Marketing Vision Pro is really is like a productivity and workplace tool, which I totally get. I could imagine us all sitting in offices or working from home and having this, digital way of interacting with each other. And you could just, with AI, you can see how that would increase and improve productivity tenfold. So, maybe it's that you have some amazing hardware like that comes together with incredible software, metaverse experience in one use case that drives things forward, right? It would be really interesting to see. Hey, I wanted to talk about this beautiful piece of literature that sat on the desk between us.
My book.
Yeah. So you have just brought this book out, right? It's a matter of weeks, I think I'm right in saying.
That's right.
Would love to hear about it.
Yeah. So Wiley is the publisher of the book, and they saw me speak at a conference. I can't remember which one it was now. And they said, you know what? We get a lot of requests for people to say, what is Web3? What is AI? Now, this was way back too, before ChatGPT exploded. And what is the Metaverse? And so what we would love is a storytelling book about that. And I was like, oh, I'd love to tell stories. That sounds great. So I signed up to do the book, and I didn't realize it was going to be a business fable. So I thought they just wanted me to tell stories. I like to tell stories, but they wanted me to go one step further and have characters and dialogue. And so I actually quickly went and took a class because I had never written dialogue. I'd written technical books before or business books, where you say what it is and here's your framework, but never a dialogue. And so the book came together with a set of characters. I named them after people who had influenced me, whales from Unstoppable, that I just thought were spectacular. Of course, I have a female. Her name is V. One of the women who used to work for me, her name was Victoria. We used to call her V. And so I designed the characters, kind of gave them a little bit of backstory, and then let them tell a story of what is Web3 and why is it important in business, how is AI going to impact business, and how is the metaverse going to impact business. And then the back end of the book are the frameworks, like what you would typically find in a business book. So as people were reading it, I was first really scared because I had never written dialogue before. And it was really hard for me to write dialogue. And then people started reading it. And one of the concepts that I talk about in the book is the difference between a tiger team and a rabbit team. So a tiger team, whether you're working at Microsoft or IBM or Amazon, tiger teams are formed all the time. They are formed to attack a problem, right? That's why it's a tiger. It's attacking a problem. And you go out there and you solve the problem, and then the team goes away. But as I started talking to all these companies, 400 plus companies, what I found is the very best companies had these teams that came together. They were small teams. They moved really quickly, but they didn't leave. They stayed together. And so they had the history and knowledge. And so I started thinking about that, like you're going down the rabbit hole. Well, maybe these guys are rabbit teams, right? They're really fast. They move quickly. They pivot, they experiment. And so I started calling that the rabbit team. And so actually one of the women, her name was Kate from Pepsi. Pepsi said, I love that. I'm going to rename my team the Rabbit Team. And of course, that's where the title of the book comes from. So the publisher heard that, they saw her quote, and they said, The book is going to be called The Tiger and the Rabbit. The Tiger and the Rabbit, because it's a business fable, and you talk about the tiger and the rabbit in the book. So that's how the name came to be. And then because it's an AI book, so I'll just show this. This is really cool too. So we wanted to use AI tools to create the cover. And so we came up with 2 covers using several different AI tools to draw the cover. And I then had my my audience on LinkedIn vote for the favorite cover. And so it was really tough. Like, it was almost like 1,600 votes to 1,602 votes. But this was the cover that won. So I thought that was really cool. It was like crowdsourcing plus AI, all into one, really drinking my own champagne from the book as well. So it's kind of cool.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to read it. As I kind of shared before the show, I've ordered a copy. It's yet to arrive yet, but I'm really looking forward to digging into it. And one of the things that I read, I think you just mentioned it, is there's also kind of frameworks and tools that business leaders can use to implement in their own organizations based on what they've learned from the fables to implement in real life. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So the back end of the book, so I tell the story with these characters, and V, our heroine, she uses these frameworks with her team. And the frameworks actually came with me talking to these 400 plus companies. It was what I found were best practices from the best of the best. And again, though, I say in the book, like, this is early days. Like, we're in the, dial-up phase of what we're doing. And so one of the things I kept hearing over and over again from companies who are doing this today is, I had to make up my own playbook. The playbook didn't exist. You know this. The playbook doesn't exist. You have to make up your own playbook. And so what I shared is playbooks that we see today and what's worked today, but it doesn't mean that's what will work in the future. So I invite all the readers to come back and share with me. I tried this and I supplemented with that, or I tried this, but I pivoted here, so that we could really learn together as we go forward in the great new frontier, right?
Amazing. Well, I know it's already a resounding success, but really wish you all the best with taking the news of the tiger and the rabbit kind of around the world. Speaking of which, whilst you're here in Singapore, of course, you will be representing Unstoppable Domains, and I'm sure meeting a whole bunch of your partners and friends from the community. But I know you're also involved with the Unstoppable Women of Web3. Maybe you could explain a little bit about that for anybody who's watching.
Yeah. So when I came into Web3, so first of all the first meetings I had, I would say for the first 2 months, I didn't see another female, which was shocking to me. I'd come from Amazon Web Services. Like, we're really technical, and still, 25% of the folks are women, which I still thought was too low. So I started doing some research on it and found that in emerging tech spaces, the numbers are even lower. So only 15% of those in AI are female. Only 8% of those in crypto are female. I mean, it's super low. It's like ridiculously low. And then I think what really got me is the New York Times did an article about me coming over. So we started getting tons of applicants. And I started looking at them. 2% were females. 2%. That blew me away, because at Amazon, we would do advertisements for people and we get like 40% women that would apply. So I thought, something's wrong. Something's not right. And so as I started talking to women, they were like, well, what the hell is Web3 anyway? Like, I don't know. In your job description, it says, must be interested in Web3. Well, I don't know what it is. How can I be interested in it? And the same thing went for what is blockchain? What is Metaverse? And so I decided to found a group, because everybody kept saying, yes, somebody should do something about this. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm somebody. So I founded a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3. And the goal was to educate women, make it accessible to everyone, anybody. And I still remember I took this to our CEO and we were like, could we get 20 companies to join us? We might be able to get 20 companies. When we announced 2 years ago, we actually ended up with 80. Now we have 210 Amazing. Companies who are with us. So it's really for companies to come in. They have to sign a pledge that says that they commit to, like, when you do interviews, you're going to interview women and men. When you have keynotes, you're going to have women and men. When you do your education material, like, everything will be inclusive is essentially what you sign. And I've had companies, some big companies who've signed, who said, that was actually harder getting that document signed than giving you $10,000.
Yeah.
We don't ask for any money. We just ask them to sign the pledge. And I even remember there's one company who came to us and they said, look at our education. Our education is so amazing. You're going to find it great. So we went through, a lot of their education was fabulous until we went through this one section on blockchain. And every blockchain developer was a white male, everyone in hoodies. Like, I know not all white males wear hoodies either. All of them under 25. And we were like, okay, where are the women? Where are the, African-American men? Okay, where are the men over 30? You've got a lot of work to do here. So we had some fun with it too. So eventually, instead of just doing education, so we have all these education tracks and streams, which are super important. And then what started happening is I was speaking at a lot of conferences, and the head of the conference would call me and say, I wish I could have more women speak, but there just aren't any. So I was like, okay, what have you called? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, no, thank you. So then all these conference leaders started calling me. That's not scalable. So we decided to publish the list of the 100 most inspirational women of Web3. And so we did that. We did it twice the first year because there were so many amazing women. And we continue to do it because one of my favorite things is if you can see it, you can be it, right? So if a young girl's out there and she sees, let's say she sees Debbie Soon, who started Hug, then she knows she can do it. Or if she sees Jessica, who's running a big portion of the Coinbase business, then she can do it too. And so we're going to make an announcement here in Singapore. We'll have some of the ladies that will be here in person, and we'll get to announce the list and have them there in person. So I'm just really excited that we get to do it here in Singapore, and we have such diversity on the list of all these amazing women who are doing some cool things in Web3.
Yeah, so exciting and just incredible to hear how much wind you've got behind those sales so quickly, and that so many companies are involved already. I know for a fact that there are several folks from our company who are going to be attending your event. I'm really excited about it. So,
that's great. And then the other thing that we did as well is we also announcing the top 55 girls of Web3. And we did this so that the next generation could be rewarded as well. We did our first set of girls. We did 25 girls last year. And I was, Sam, oh my God. So 6-year-old girl, now think about back when you were 6-year-old girl sat down and taught me how to write a smart contract.
Yeah.
6 years old.
Oh my goodness.
What were you doing at 6? I was playing on a playground. No way was I writing a smart contract. And so we have 55 girls, and we partnered with Flipkart, who is, the Amazon of India, Asia. We partnered with Miss O'Cool Girls, which is a very powerful group that teaches young girls how to do NFTs. We partnered with 100 Girls of Blockchain, which is based in India as well. And then Blockchain is partnering with us on the party to do the announcement. So again, it's just so many amazing groups, Web 2, as well as Web3, that have come together to really drive this initiative.
Yeah, so cool. And this is going to be a really naive question, I'm sure. But what's the barriers that have prevented girls and women from getting into Web3? Is it that, tradition? This is my, I guess, naive guess, right? Is it that, blockchain typically is kind of a technical space, which maybe attracted engineers to begin with, and that's traditionally been dominated by males? Or what's the root cause?
Yeah, well, here's one which is really fascinating. So most emerging tech has fewer diverse candidates in it, and a lot of the reason is that men will apply for a role. Let's say there are 10 requirements, and Google did the study, so it's a formal study that if there's 10 requirements, men will apply if they have 4 of the 10. And they'll be like, you should definitely hire me. I've got 4 of these 10 things. Women and diverse candidates will only apply for the role if they have 10 of the 10. So when we write roles that say must have an interest in Web3, and they're like, oh my God, I don't even know what Web3 is, I can't apply. Or must understand or must have used blockchain technology. We've evaluated a lot of job descriptions before. A lot of the way the job description's written up with the tendency of women and how they look at those, they were just eliminated. They eliminate themselves right away. That's one of it. And then the second is, is that technical barrier. So that's why we have a Unstoppable Women of Web3 site. We've got streams of education that you can take that's free. It's video, it's white papers, it's audio, because people learn differently. So we wanted to have a really good mix of all of those and open it up. We don't charge for anything. Like, for example, Alchemy donated a whole set of blockchain classes. They just gave them to us. So we can use those for free. So anybody can now go out and learn about blockchain, for example. We did initiatives with Latin America. To get 5 million Latin America women trained, 6 million African women trained. So we're trying to also make things customizable to region, because obviously if you're in Latin America, you want things in Spanish. So we have Spanish classes. If you're in Africa, African has a lot of French influence. You want things in French and Arabic. And so we're really trying to meet the needs of all these women around the world. And here's why it's so important. It's not just because it's a good thing. It's not just because, oh yeah, we have a woman on our team. Diversity, it's been proven over and over again, whether you look at a McKinsey study, a Deloitte study, an IDC study, all those studies show that if you have a diverse team, you innovate faster, you have more broad-reaching ideas, and you get more widespread adoption. Where are we today? We don't have widespread adoption. So we need more diversity of ideas. And that's really the goal, right? There is a business case for having diverse teams. It's not just a nice to have or a great check mark. It is a business case to have diverse teams.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, I wish you all the best with Unstoppable Women of Web3. I know that our team will certainly be supporting this week. Yeah. And all the best with the announcement as well.
Thank you.
Let's bring it back to Unstoppable, I guess. Just what is going on at Unstoppable Domains at the moment? I keep pretty close track of everything that you guys are doing. It seems like there's a new exciting partnership every week. I can see also in terms of the experiences that you're building out, they're beginning to evolve even more as well. But what's new at Unstoppable?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of new things. So one is that we want to be the one-stop shop for buying your Web3 digital identity or domain. So we've recently started supporting and selling .eth. And that has blown people away because, we're number one. We've got 3.8 million domains out there. They're number two, but we are now selling it, and not just selling it, but making it better. You can now buy .eth for a credit card or PayPal, which you've never been able to do before. You can buy it in bulk. You don't have to have a wallet. I know that might be hearsay, but you don't have to have a wallet. You can store it in a vault until you figure out how to get a wallet. And so all these really cool things, I think, make it much more easy to buy something in a one-stop shop. So that's one. That includes .sats. We also just decided to buy .sats with the ordinals. Yep. So we now have that going on too, and you'll see more and more additions to that one-stop shop, if you would. The second thing is we're looking for more utility as well. And one of the things that we really believe is that when people look back, they will look back and they'll say, of course, a digital identity should be a domain in the new internet. And when they do that, I think something that will prod that forward is the ability to have an application that you can use every day, like messaging. So we just released peer-to-peer messaging, which means that I can now message you with my domain. I can not only message you with a domain, but I can also message certain wallet providers or like Lynn's protocol. I can also message them. And so now, how often do you message people? Like every day. And so that gives you an application you can use constantly. And one of the things I did, I have the customer support team under me as well. I wanted to drink our own champagne. And so we developed an application using messaging for customer support. So we had over 1,000 requests come in using messaging versus email. Now that made my team happy because they didn't have to go create a ticket, but it also made our users happy because they got instant answers versus waiting for the email to come in, filing a ticket, responding. And so that, again, just gives you another application. We're announcing here in Singapore, actually today on this very day, we're also announcing business to user messaging, which I think is even going to be bigger. So what does that mean? Well, on Polygon, so Sandeep is going to send the very first business to user message, and he'll be able to message everybody who has a .polygon. Or, we've got Meta Rides, who is a Metaverse car racing game. They can message everybody who has qualified for their badge. Or blockchain.com, which is one of the largest US exchanges. Lane, who's their president, is going to be able to message all of their folks too. So we are announcing that here in Singapore, which we think is really important for utility and really driving that forward. The other thing we want to do is make domains accessible to everyone. So also announcing today is we're going to make our domains accessible for many places in Asia that before they were inaccessible for because of the price. So we're going to do $2 domains. So lowest price we've ever gone. And as my CEO said, will be the lowest price we'll ever go. But we're going to roll that out with .polygon. So with Sandeep and the Polygon team, we'll be rolling out a .polygon. So for the next couple of weeks, you can get your .polygon for $2, making it accessible. Our mission is to put a digital identity in the hands of every person. And if the price is too much, you can't reach that mission. And so what we wanted to really do is to make that really, I don't know what happened there.
Sandeep.
Maybe it was Sandeep.
About the announcement.
Make that really accessible to everyone. And then we'll also be making an announcement with Sandbox. So we're going to partner with Sandbox. Sandbox, the Sandbox has tons of games. And we're going to create with Smolder Labs and Design Studio a unstoppable experience. So you'll be able to go in and get a domain, but also a shield with unstoppable or a sword with unstoppable and have some fun with it. Again, back to that utility and accessibility. And so that's really what we've been working on and really trying to make sure that we have utility. We believe utility is greater than hype. Make it easy with our one-stop shop and then make it accessible in terms of the pricing.
Amazing. You guys have been very, very busy. It sounds
we
like.
have been very busy.
And some serious alpha we got here. You heard it here first this week.
That's
in
right.
Singapore. So Sandy, one of the things that I love about everything you do at Unstoppable Domains is the community and how passionate everybody is. And I would love to hear a little bit about what's going on in the community right now, what everybody's excited about.
Yeah, I think, everybody's excited about us being the one-stop shop because they wanted to buy .eth and .sats from one owner, I guess I would say, or one website. So they're real super excited about that. I would say the other thing is they love our partnerships. Like every time we announce a new partnership, they're like, whoa, because it gives them more utility, right? Utility is greater than hype. So it just adds that one additional thing. And in fact, I was thinking as we were sitting here, we should do some sort of partnership too.
We totally should, yeah. And actually, I have a hidden agenda given you're in town with your team. Yeah. And let's imagine that for a minute. So if Bake and Unstoppable were to do a partnership, what could that look like? So maybe let me tell you a little bit about Bake first. So we're evolving our product at the moment. So it will essentially become a marketplace for financial services. So essentially we'll provide the blank canvas upon which other projects, be that tokens or real world tokenized assets or something completely else, can launch, and then we'll build up narratives, kind of a little bit like the way the App Store does, and users will be able to engage with those different narratives. Some of them even maybe bundled up, so you might be able to buy a bundle of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and T-bills, for example. It's a retail app, and we've probably got about 1 million users on it, and also very passionate community. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, it sounds like a great match. I mean, some of the things that I would think of is you could bundle a domain in with your assets that you're buying. We had actually talked about doing something like this, like call it a backpack, like a starter kit, like a Web3 starter kit, right? Gives a Web2 user a domain, give them some Ethereum, give them some Bitcoin so they can get started really easy, not make it so hard, right?
Yeah, it's kind of exactly where the I guess the product spark came from, because we realized that everybody says do your own research, but that's not that easy, right? Even for the most kind of experienced and technically savvy people, to actually sit down and really understand how legitimate a project is, the future potential of a project, et cetera, it's kind of a complicated landscape. So definitely, I think people suffer from information overload. So our goal is kind of to simplify that and to provide these narratives and these stories that can help people understand a little bit more without having to go quite so deep. So,
yeah, I love that. I think that would be great. I mean, the other thing is we also, because, you can take Sandy.x and log in to lots of different places, we could do something where we could do a login capability for your marketplace, making it easier for your users. So they don't have to log in with a wallet address, 21 alphanumerics and forget one or something, or have to log in with a Web 2, like gas Web 2 way, right?
Yeah.
We've had a couple of marketplaces, they would have a Google sign in or something like that, which is a Web 2 way to sign in, and their users revolted and they asked for an unstoppable domain way to log in. So I think we could do lots of cool things. We could even, if your community is that passionate and you have 1 million folks, we could even do like a dot, I don't know if it's available, but dot bake or dot something like we did for dot polygon, where they have their own signature way of identifying their community, and their community can really get excited. So any of those kind of things would be quite interesting to chat about too.
I'm sure the bake community would love a .bake domain.
Yeah.
I think they refer to we refer to ourselves as bakers. So
that's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So
hey, if we have 10 minutes after this call, let's definitely talk more.
Okay, that sounds good. You may have first heard it here.
Yeah, more alpha. Is that like the 4 things? Hey, listen, I just want to end by saying a huge thank you to you for coming on. It's been such a great experience. I've learned so much. I'm sure everybody tuning in has done too. Also want to wish you a really, really warm welcome to Singapore, and hope that you have a great stay. Really good luck with the announcements that you have coming up over the next couple of days, both for Unstoppable Domains and for Unstoppable Women of Web3. It's really, really exciting. For anybody who's not familiar with you, maybe you can let us know, let the community know where they can find you online.
Yeah, for Unstoppable, if you're on Twitter, it's Unstoppable Web. I don't know why that is, but it is Unstoppable Web, not Unstoppable Domains. If you want to go to our website, it is unstoppabledomains.com. If you want to follow me or ask me any questions, it's Sandy_Carter on Twitter, Sandy_Carter founder on Instagram. Basically, I'm on everything you can imagine: Discord, Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal. I'm everywhere. So, in fact, it was so funny. Lisa, who's on my team today, she goes, "We have so many choices of communication while we're here in Singapore. How are we going to communicate? Because there's just too many, right?" That's a great business opportunity. Someone to combine all the ways to communicate into one.
Very true.
Anyway, thank you so much for having me on the show as well. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for being so supportive of the Web3 community with what you're doing here, and for giving everybody a warm welcome while we're here in Token. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sandy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do remember to like and subscribe. There's lots more episodes coming up, and we've got some really exciting guests over the next few weeks. So do tune in. Thank you.